Sorry about that, TC. I thought I had it set up to open up and start for you automatically.
No problem. Good afternoon, Julius.
Good afternoon. Good to hear from you.
Thank you. Well. I hope we have an audience tonight.
Me too. It looks like there's one person so far. My daughter's got a cold and is coughing a lot, so I'm gonna keep myself muted.
Okay. Well, you guys be safe and take care.
Thanks. I'll still be around.
Okay. I'm gonna give it about 3 more minutes, and hopefully we will have a few more to pop in on TC of Little Run Acres. So just bear with me. I will begin today with Growing Hope. They are the co-host of this event, and they are helping me out with the Zoom conference what we're doing here today. I am TC of Little Run Acres. Today we're going to be discussing growing fall bulbs, alliums, and ornamental onions. As you can see that this is the best time to start growing off, and this is the best time to grow these type of fall bulbs. But before I begin, I would like to discuss that our organization of Little Run Acres has been working together with Growing Hope. And for Growing Hope, Their mission is to foster an equitable, sustainable local food system where all people are empowered to grow, sell, buy, and to eat nutritious food. Their vision is in Ypsilanti is a community where all people, particularly those with barriers due to race, class, culture, language, ability, and mobility, have access to nutrition food, local food that is culinary appropriate and affordable, can grow and prepare their own and harvest, and many. Let me see if I can get this out of the way. Another thing, Growing Hope is located in Ypsilanti, downtown Ypsilanti, off of Michigan Ave. They have a marketplace. They are an urban farm. They also kitchen, and again, they are located on 922 West Michigan Avenue, downtown Ypsilanti. For us as Willow Run Acres, our mission is to teach gardening and farming for all skill levels, and to install the joy of growing your own fresh, healthy, and sustainable food in the food system. We are also a 4-H club. Our 4-H chapter is Willow for Willow Run, and for Ann Arbor, Ypsi for Ypsilanti. So it's the 4-H club, Willow and Ypsi. The 4-H is a youth development program, and is to help the outreach, and is also connected and also inspired with the cooperation of the Cooperative Extension Services of the United States Department of Agriculture. The 4-H vision is a world in which youth and adults learn to grow and work together as a catalyst for positive change, which grows as a promise for American kids, started in 2020. I take that back, let me start again. As a promise, American kids in 2025, 4-H will reflect the population demographics, vulnerable population, diverse needs, and social conditions of the country. This vision has the elements of inclusion, caring adults, serving at minimum 1 in 5 youth, and the volunteers and the staff reflect the diversity of the population. 4-H mission empowers youth to reach their full potential, working and learning in partnerships with caring adults. The mission of the 4-H is to provide meaningful opportunities for all youth and adults to work together to create sustainable community change. This is accomplished with 3 primary content areas or mission areas: civic engagement, leadership, healthy living, and science. These area missions radiate the founding purpose of extension through agriculture, community leadership, quality of life, and technology. In the contents of the 21st century, challenges and opportunities. I'd like to begin with myself. I'm T.C. Collins. I started gardening at the age of 2 with my great-grandparents. They were descendants and they were former slaves. Their legacy of farming has been preserved in our family. I am the sixth generation of farming. We're trying to keep agriculture alive because it is a lost tradition. My southern roots is from the South, particularly in Virginia, West Virginia, Mississippi, and Louisiana. I garden in many different garden spots around Michigan and in Ohio. Today we're going to be discussing about tulips, daffodils, crocus, hyacinths, and also ornamental onions, and also fall bulbs. Starting with the soil. Starting with the soil is most important, and it's the most interesting part of gardening and farming. Gardening is a small scale growing space, and it's still considered farming. Farming is a large scale and a larger space where it could be anywhere from 50 feet to hundreds of acres. So Farming and gardening is interchangeable, and it depends on how you look at it and how you like to proceed as a farmer or as a gardener. I do both, and I'm happy with both of them. So working with the soil is very important when growing fall bulbs. Your texture will determine the drainage of your soil. If you don't have proper drainage, your bulbs, your plants can become root rots. So it's very important to have good draining soil. Structure, the soil and the condition of the soil that has many attributes. It could be mycelium. It could be too much bacteria or fungus. It could be too many um, recycled leaves into one area that could be high in nitrogen. Well, breaking down the structure of the soil is vitally important. So you have to have many elements for your structure of soil to work together in harmony. pH is another component, high in pH, or it can be too low in pH. I will discuss later in this series about pH and the importance of pH in growing any type of fall bulbs. Nutrients. Nutrients is very important. Without nutrients, you won't be able to grow a good, healthy garden. For an example, if you want to grow roses in a box of sand, it will grow temporarily, but growing in sand, water will run right through it, and it has nothing to hold the water together. So it needs more nutrients to hold it together, such as wood chips, compost, moss, or even broken pieces of wood. So having the right nutrients in the soil is a very important part of plant growth. When I talked a bit about a pH, this is very important. Having two different types of lime. We're going to discuss about one lime here. Lime increases the pH level. If you grow rhododendrons, if you grow asparagus, if you grow roses, pH level has to be at least 6.0 and above. Bugs love to grow in pH level in good, rich, defined soil. But when we see here that bugs, specifically in fall bugs, love to grow in 6.0 to 7.0. If your soil isn't balanced, adding compost and adding sand, like I said earlier, for texture and for structure for the soil is an amendment. Irises, bulbs, alliums is similar to potatoes. There are also other things that are related to these plants that are in the nightshade family. Onions is another element to soil composition. And the reason why I bring up onions and also alliums, because alliums is a structured item that has a host of many different plants, such as garlic, garlic chives itself, you have shallots, and you also have ramps. Those type of plants specifically love to be in a nice 6.0 to 7.0 pH level. So they have a very good soil composition. For our last one, optimum growth is very important. As I stated earlier, 6.0 to 7.0. The best way to test your soil is buy a small soil kit or purchase one through one of your local school extensions, such as Michigan State University, for a small fee, and they will test the soil and see if it needs more nutrients or less nutrients. And depending on the soil that you have, it's always good to add sphagnum moss, and it's a good thing to add potash, which increases the value of your soil. So that way it will bring the balance to a neutral to even elevated. Now, if it falls below 6.0 and below, you can always add soil amendments, but not to worry because fall bugs can adapt pretty easy. But if it goes below 3.0, then you won't have a successful in that soil condition because one, it is very high acidic and the pH level is very low, so it won't grow very well. So it's good to test your soil. And adding lime, it's always good to add lime to your soil if needed early in the fall, so that way it can break down over winter, or very early in the spring, so that way it can break down and it can go into the soil and amend the soil within 8 weeks. Now, if you do it over summer, it's a little bit too late because the lime itself will get into your bulbs and it can burn the bulbs because of the hotness of the heat. So again, putting out lime, it's good to put it over winter or early in the spring. So that way it has at least 8 weeks to break it down. Now, this type of lime itself, the AG lime, is also known as agricultural lime. Let me go back. I'm sorry about that. This lime is a very different type of lime. It works by dissolving and releasing at the base, and that it lowers the acidic level in the soil. And that's what I was explaining. When it gets below 6.0, 4.5, or 3.0, that is very low. It is good for the soil, but not for growing fall bulbs. Now, if you want to add this, let me explain to you, let me read it to you. For the crop growing in less than ideal acidic condition, AG lime can boost a farmer's profit potential by providing a number of benefits. This is cost effective and includes importing fertilizer efficiency by as much as 50%. I know that's confusing, but look at it this way. If you're growing corn, spinach, lettuce, this type of lime is good for those type of acidic type of plants. Growing bulbs, this is not a good type of lime. So there's two type of limes to look at, regular lime and AG lime. And anytime using lime, please wear a mask and please wear gloves. And try not to disperse the lime in the air when the wind is blowing, so that way it won't get back into your face, because lime has different properties and you can be allergic to it or it can cause health complications. So please read the instructions carefully and dress appropriately. Now, this type of lime here is dolomite. Cannot pronounce the name right, but it's the D lime. It is manufactured by crushing in its very small pieces. This also is a good type of lime, but at the same time, it has 3 different properties that you want to take a look at, and I'm going to read this one right here for you. The primary difference between the 2 minerals is that, in addition to containing calcium carbonate, and the dolomitic lime also contains a mixture of magnesium carbonate. Typically, the mineral is comprised of approximately 50% of calcium and 40% of magnesium, with the remaining being other materials. Now, working with this in plants, it is good for bulbs. It is good for crocus, and it's good for irises. It's good for fall bulbs. Working with this, the magnesium makes the leaves brighter. That's this magnesium right here. Makes the leaves brighter green. And also the calcium, think of it as like adding baking soda to the soil, and it makes the plants grow a lot richer. This chart can be found online, and it's a good way to look at your soil and look at how you're growing it. So that way, when you see the different charts from 4.0, and I'm sorry about this little bar is at the bottom. I do not know how to, okay, there we go. I'll try and hide it for you if I can. 4.0 all the way to 10.0. Now, believe me or not, when you have strong alkaline soil versus strong acidic soil, plants can tell you the difference on what they want to grow in. So on this side. If you want to grow potatoes, right here between 7.5 to 6.0. If you want to grow fall bulbs, raspberries, strawberries, asparagus, 6.0 to 7.5. So the discussion that we're having today is staying in the 6.0 to 7.5. Soil amendments. Soil amendments is developed to address specific plant needs. The reason why you add soil amendments because it promotes growth for the plant. If you put a plant into the soil without adding nutrients to it, you will get a smaller plant. You may get a smaller yield, and you may not get the flowers or the type of plant that you want. So adding soil amendments helps growth of a plant. So when you nearest nursery, they have tons of different types of soil amendments. Ask a professional specifically, once you test your soil, what is the best soil amendments for your soil? Soil amendments can be added to help prevent compaction in clay soils. This helps to prevent root rot, to promote strong root growth, and to improve drainage aeration. So adding sand to your soil, it will break up the clay. Adding perlite to your soil can add air to your soil. You can also find individual amendments on your own by adding soil compost. You can add sand. You can add coffee. You can add broken down wood chips. These are soil amendments. Even manure, I would say cow manure, chicken manure are the best. If you're going into horse manure, I won't say that's very good because it does have seeds, and any seeds that are in the manure will grow back into your soil that you're planting your bulbs in. So that's something to think about by not adding horse manure, but adding cow manure or chicken manure is a good thing to have. Chicken manure itself is high in nitrogen. So you got to think about that also because you will get more foliage and not a lot of flowers. So if you love flowers and love color, think about how much compost that you're adding to your bulbs. Potassium and phosphorus is very important to remember also. And again, when adding soil amendments to your soil, please wear gloves. Again, nitrogen and the nutrients builds up more than most people think. So if you're adding a lot of green, if you're adding a lot of leaves, if you're adding a lot of broken down compost, that is strong in nitrogen. And it could be good, but it could be also something that you don't want to do. So know how much nitrogen that you're adding to your bulbs, knowing how much compost you're adding to your soil. And if you're going to compost in an area that you're only putting your bulbs in. Do not compost the whole area, because if you're composting the whole area, any grass or weeds that you're composting will get stronger and they will be away from the plant. So localize your compost to specifically the plants that you're growing towards. So that way they benefit from the compost and from the nitrogen itself. If you're adding phosphorus, that is very important to add this where you can have good group development. So if you're adding 4 to 12 daffodils or tulips into a clump in an area, adding this phosphorus now and 3 years from today, those 8 bulbs can possibly multiply to having at least additional 6 more. So it's very important to understand that when you have group development, this is what phosphorus is very important for. Sulfur. Sulfur has many compounds. You can use sulfur for fruit trees, keep blight, and also keeping different types of diseases away from the plant. Sulfur itself is a compound and is directly related to garlic and the healing benefits such as in the flavor. Sulfur helps lower the pH level. So when I talked about earlier, a couple of minutes ago, about adding your pH level higher, this type of element mineral lowers your pH level. So you want to make sure how much sulfur you are using with your bulbs. Talked about compost. I love to do compost, but it's very important working with compost. The best compost is rotten manure. Anything that's 180 days and out. It is very important because it has parasites, it has different type of problems that you don't want to put directly onto your plant because it's hot and it's fresh. So you want to make sure that it breaks down after 180 days. And please don't put it on your edible plants and don't put it on your flowering plants earlier than that because one, it can kill your plants, and two, it could be very damaging to your plants. So in my article here, it says 120 days, but I strongly say 180 days. 120 days is very good, but 180 days is very optimum and excellent. Cow manure is the best, poultry manure is the second, and then regular vegetable food scraps without grease, oils, cheese, dairy products. Those are bad things to put in your compost. You want table scraps such as leafy greens, pieces of onion, I would say broken down banana peels because that's good in potassium. Try not to put too many lemon rinds or anything that has any citrus into your compost because that is bringing up the acidic level once again higher. So I would say leafy compost is the best out of all three. When adding manure, please wear gloves and wash your hands afterwards because it does have germs on it. So you want to use rotten manure, which is very important. What we have here is a list of different items. We have compost tea, which you can get at any nursery or any plant distributor. They will talk to you about how to make compost tea. If you don't know how to make compost, I would suggest that get you at least 3 5-gallon empty food grade buckets, wash them out real well, sanitize them. Then once they're sanitized and clean, get outdoor leaves and fill all 3 5-gallon buckets up full of leaves and press down real hard until they are fully compact. Then you want to add hot water over those 3 5-gallon buckets, and when they're submerged, let it sit for a good 30 days to 60 days. The water would break down the leaves and the leaves would turn very brown. That is compost tea. It's a good concentrate. You can pour that right onto your plants. Once the leaves break down, you can take those leaves and put it onto your plants also. Cover crops. That is a green manure, such as legumes, different types of rye, different types of clovers is a green manure. Even comfrey is a green manure, and that is good for your soil. It breaks up the soil. It amends the soil real well, and it's good for clay soils because a lot of clay soils do not have nutrients in it. By adding green cover crops to the soil, it helps bring nutrients back to it. Important thing, don't till your soil up because you're breaking up the microbes and the organisms that are growing into that soil. Let it grow itself out and just cut it as needed, but don't till the soil because you want to make sure you're growing those nutrients into the soil. Peat moss is very important. Some people are against it, but for me, it retains moisture. You can also use coconut coir that has become very popular lately, and it holds a lot of moisture. But peat moss and coconut coir has been proven that it raises the acidic level up. So you want to make sure that with using this, you can also blend it with regular compost and leaf mulch and wood chips, and it will break down a lot quicker into the soil. Perlite is volcanic rock. It is crushed and is heat treated and is lightweight, and it can be put into soil for drainage, and it's very good. Mulch, my favorite. This is the best time to get mulch because when people are raking their leaves and putting them into leaf bags, and know where you get your leaf mulch from because you don't want animal waste in your leaf mulch. Get clean mulch. Use the bag itself because it's a paper bag. It's biodegradable. It is good for the environment. Use that leaf, spread it over your area, and they will break down over winter and bring more nutrients to your soil. Just as I talked at the very beginning about compost tea. Mulch and compost tea is related. So I'm gonna point right here. This is a way of making your own compost tea. Go to the local aquarium store, get you a little aerator, $6 to $10. Put that in here with your bag of leaves, let it aerate a little bit, and then after 30 days, you have compost tea. This one right here is the cover crops, like I was explaining to you about legumes. You got sweet peas, you got rye, clovers, you got quite a few different things to make into this also, to make green compost or green manure. Then when I sit there and said about not tilling your soil, this is a no-till method where you can garden in the middle here, but let plants grow here and let those grow out thoroughly and harvest those so that way it can break down into manure itself. These two go together because you can use green compost and also comfrey, and it works hand in hand to bring good manure to the soil. Green manure, sorry about that. Here, when I was talking about the peat moss, it brings the acidic level up, but also you can use coffee grounds. I didn't mention that too many times, but coffee grounds also can bring in acidic to your soil. This one here is some perlite that I was talking about that you can add it to your soil, and you can add that so it can add more aeration to your soil. Here is your mulch that when you break down the leaves, it turns like this right here into good humus for the soil. Steps for the fall bulb. Tulips, daffodils, alliums, and ornamental onions, even chives, and also garlic chives and ramps. This is very important. Test your area. See if it's a good area to grow in. If it's a good area to grow in, then you can amend your soil. Number 2. Once you amend your soil, prepare. Preparing is 2 different things. Prepare is like getting your supplies together, getting your blueprint together, getting your design, getting all your essential things ready to start tilling or digging. That goes for here, number 4. Till or turn the soil for at least once to 14 days. Reason for that is because you're turning the soil from the bottom up, you're adding air to the soil. And any microbes or any bacteria or anything that's in there that should not be in there, it dies off, and your soil is good after the 14th to 17th day. Now it's time to plant all your autumn bulbs. When you plant your plants, don't forget to water your plants, because just as much as you planned everything out at the very beginning by testing and amending and preparing your soil and tilling it, waiting 14 to 17 days, you planted your bulbs, remember to water your plants because bulbs need to be watered. when you water your plants, then mulch. The reason why I say mulch afterwards, because if you water on top of mulch, the mulch is going to get wet. Your bulbs underneath that mulch is not going to receive any water. Always water before your mulch. So that way the moisture stays underneath the mulch. Then you can water the second time on top of the mulch. So that way, times as much as water. Number 8, you wait. Because you did all that good work from 1 to 7. And now number 8, you're waiting. Now it's time for winter. Your plants are growing in the wintertime because they're called winter hardening. Because bulbs need to overwinter to enjoy what is about to bring forth what you have grown. You have spring, summer weeding to do. Take out the weeds that's around your bulbs because those weeds is going to grow and they're going to take up the nutrients and the amendments that you had added to the soil. So taking those out very early in the spring will reward you in the summertime. Now it's time to enjoy. We talked about preparing the soil. Loose plants. Group them together. Water, well ventilated in a cool, dry place. When you're preparing your plants, bulbs, keep them in a dark, cool environment. Keep them in a paper bag. So that way no moisture and no light will start your plants from sprouting. And do not take them out of the bag until you are ready to plant. We talked about preparing the soil. You want it in a good drainage area. You want it in full sunlight. Because the mistake a lot of people do, and I've done it myself, I planted some plants thinking that I can put it on the side of the house, and guess what? Wasn't enough sunlight. So make sure you, wherever you put your bulbs and plants at, you have good drainage and good sunlight. Type of soil is important. We talked about the pH level. If you don't understand the pH level, always call your local nursery and see if they can test the soil. It should not cost you no more than $10. If your soil is too acidic or this needs some amendments, please talk to a professional so that way you get the right answer. Site preparation. Like I talked about sunlight. All bulbs need full sunlight. Don't let nobody tell you different. For the best plants to grow healthy, they need sunlight. Because if you put them in a shaded area, and take it from me, putting them in a shaded area without thinking, you get small plants, and those plants will get moisture, and they will become root rot, and you don't want that to happen. Make sure you have good drainage. If you don't have good drainage, it will become soggy, it will become moist, it would damage the plant, and the money, the time, and the energy that you put into growing these bulbs won't be successful. So please put them in a nice drainage, sunny location. Rhizomes. Rhizomes is very important. Planting plants too deep will not grow. They will rot. So we're going to talk about irises. Irises love to be at least 1.5 to 2 inches in the soil. That's it. Planting them too deep, they will rot. They want to be visible above the soil. Just a little bit of the soil. It's very important. It's just like laying your hand on top of the dirt and just sprinkling dirt on top of it loosely. Do not pack because irises are very fussy. They don't want to be compact. They don't want to be buried too low because they will rot. And these are beautiful plants that you do not want to rot. So any rhizomes that you do grow, it's very important to understand the purpose of rhizomes to expand and how deep so they can grow successful. We talk about irises. Irises need good drainage soil. not too much drainage. I would say medium drainage. Dig up your soil, like it says here, 6 to 8 inches deep. Add 1 cup of well-rotted compost to the hole. Plant rhizomes about 16 to 18 inches apart. Reason for is because once you plant your rhizomes of irises, they will build after the 3rd year. So when you have one plant successfully in a nice, rich, sunny location, that one plant of an iris will multiply at least 2 to 3 times as big as you have started with. Adding soil, leaving the top 1/3 of the rhizome showing is very important. Water thoroughly after planting. A low nitrogen fertilizer. If you like synthetic fertilizers, that's your preference. If you like organic fertilizer, that's your preference. It's up to you what type of fertilizer you put in your garden. These are low for nitrogen because you're starting them off in the fall. They're going to overwinter. So 5% nitrogen is very important. 10% phosphorus is very important because adding too much will get too much growth and it will die on you. And potassium is very important, 15%. The reason for potassium is because you want root growth. Crocus. We're going to talk about crocus twice. Select a site that suits your plant's light requirements. Full sun requires. Dig up the soil, planting area about 3 to 4 inches deep. If you don't know what 3 to 4 inches deep is, look at the tip of your finger and go all the way down from your middle finger all the way down to the first crease. That is 3 to 4 inches deep. That's how deep crocus needs to be buried. Too deep, they will not grow. And remember, plant the corns of your crocus in the right direction. If you see the pointed end at the top, that is the correct area. If it has a flat base at the bottom, that is the bottom. So remember, know how to plant your crocus because it's very important. Do not plant them too deep. These will spawn, replicate quickly. So in 3 years, if you plant 5, you will get 9 in 3 to 5 years. They multiply quickly. So remember, when you put them in an area in a nice, full, sunny location, good drainage, 3 to 4 inches apart, they will multiply every 3 years. Put good rotted compost and sand in the hole and add more sand if needed because they need to have good drainage. Now let me move this out the way so you can see, and I apologize again. Loosening the soil is very important. When we talked about loosening the soil, adding sand, adding moss and sand is very important. Add perlite to the soil is very important. Plants cannot absorb the nutrition they need if it don't have proper pH level. If it doesn't have proper rhizomes in a portion of an area that it, so putting it in the wrong environment, adding the wrong soil, adding the wrong mixture, and adding fertilizer will harm your plant. I know this may be a lot, but trust me, each plant talks to you because it tells you what it wants, and you will remember, my crocuses are right here, my tulips are over there, and my irises are right here. I know exactly how I'm going. Just remember, all bulbs good for good full sunlight. And always test your soil. Water plants when needed. Just don't water your plants all the time. Adding too much water can make your plants soggy, can bring more disease, can make them rot, and can be more problemsome. So please water your plant as needed. You don't want them to be too dry, and you definitely don't want them very moist. So please water as needed. A good way to remember is that when you first put your bulbs in, water them 3 times a week lightly. Put your finger into the soil, and if it's you could feel that the 2 to 3 inches that you put your finger in is moist, that is enough water. Adding too much water and it becomes mud and too sloshy, that means you added too much water and they are going to drown and they will rot. Drainage. Make sure they have enough sand. The bag of sand, a 25-pound bag of sand is like $7 at the local hardware store. You want good clay sand and just add sand as needed. Weeding is very important because just as much as you put your bulbs and you put your rhizomes out there, those weeds want that space also. So remember, when I talked about putting compost down, don't compost the whole area. Only compost the area that you put in your bulbs and your rhizomes at. And weed that area thoroughly because once you take out the weeds, they will stop returning because you've taken out the roots itself. What's very important to remember about plants, a lot of people don't know that plants and flowers has a lot to do with different type of cultures. When we talk about the irises and we talk about the rhizomes, plants was worshipped in different cultures. The Irish culture, the Greeks idolized different types of plants. The iris represents faith, hope, courage, wisdom, admiration. It doesn't mean that these plants, you got to worship them. It just means that people itself, different cultures, symbolize plants for their practices. Also, the Egyptians, they adorn and they practice a lot in their times with different exotic nature and drawings. And even in the tombs of the ancient pyramids, the irises has been seen, particularly the color purple. The color purple means for royalty. Hebrew baby names meanings. In Hebrew, names that mean in the name of Isis is flower. In the Greek name, in Greek baby names, the meaning of Iris is rainbow goddess of the Greek mythology used rainbows as a bridge to carry messages from the gods to mankind. Latin baby names meaning. In Latin baby name, the meaning of the name Iris is a meaning of bringing up joy. So again, these are beautiful plants, beautiful colors, and beautiful names. It does not mean that you are believing in a pagan god or worshiping a god. It's just that these were plants at that time, worshipped a long time ago. And today, there are people that still worshiping, but it doesn't mean that you have to worship the meanings of plants names. Today we're going to talk about tulips. Persian word for a turban, as it resembled a turban when it in full bloom originated in Central Asia. They went on to become extremely popular in Turkey and now a Dutch staple. So when the tulip is like this, the head dressing is formed of a tulip. Tulips itself symbolizes of the headscarf. Late 16th century, tulips were introduced to the Netherlands from Turkey. The flowers were then perceived as a novelty and were quite expensive. Over time, tulips contracted non-fatal mosaic virus, which made their petals brighter and more vibrant. This made the price of tulips rise even higher. So think about a long time ago in the 16th century. Tulips were very expensive. They're expensive now, but they were very expensive at that time. As the value of flowers continued to increase, people began trading land and savings to acquire more bulbs, causing what is now called as a tulip mania. Eventually, over a period of time, people were trying to sell bulbs, but not as many were buying them. This led to the crash in the tulip market during the 16th century. So in that time from the 16th to the 17th century, there was money to be made, but after there was so much of an overabundance of tulip bulbs, the market went down. What does tulip symbolize? The most common meanings of tulips are perfect or deep love, rebirth, charity. These are some things that tulips mean. So when you have a fundraiser and you see people giving tulips, that is a symbol of something for someone that's doing for charity. So when people give flowers to rebirth, a lot of times you see some people when they pass away or they're born again or their child is born, they give flowers away and you see tulips. So tulips has a very interesting meaning and it symbolizes a lot of different things. White tulips have a meaning of forgiveness, respect, and honor. Yellow tulips have a meaning of cheerfulness and hope. Red tulips have a meaning of eternal love and passion. Pink tulips are known for meaning affection, caring, good wishes, and love, although not as deep or passionate love as red tulips, respect. Purple tulips meaning because purple dye was a luxury that only royal or the super wealthy could afford. Purple tulips have a meaning of royalty and elegance. And in the 1500s, Queen Elizabeth even banned everyone except members of the royal family to wear purple as it was such a special color. Orange is one of the warm colors. It signifies joy, enthusiasm, and a longing for rays of sunshine, since orange can symbolize. Dutch tulips are the standard looking tulips. Double tulips are regular tulips with extended extra petals. Parrot tulips are the ones most gracious and exotic tulips of the world. Their tulips characterized by being heavily scalloped and fingered with feathery plumage. They're showy, elegant, and romantic. However, the big and full size requires extra protection and care against weather conditions, such as wind and rain. The lady tulips are known as the clusterous tulip, thanks to the work of the 16th century, pronounce his name, Flemish botanist Clarius Plinius. It was Claudius who ushered in the rapid spread of tulip mania during the Dutch Golden Age by cultivating tulips. So if I pronounce the name wrong, I apologize. There are over 150 species of tulips with over 3,000 different varieties. Tulips belong to the same family as lilies and onions, or the alliums. In the 1600s, tulips cost 10 times more than a working man's average wage in the Netherlands. The Netherlands export around 3 billion tulips each year. Tulips has been cultivated in every color except for classic blue. Blue tulips exist, but they have a tint of purple. Tulip bulbs are the best planted in the autumn months and tend to start blooming early in spring, carrying on into the late summertime. Check the color. Pick the closest ones. Avoid leafy tulips. Choose the number of tulips. Choose the color of tulips and prepare the tulips. Hyacinth, native to the area of the Eastern Mediterranean, Cyprus, Greece, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Turkey, and Egypt, and also Israel. From the north of the Bulgaria is a Balkan nation with diverse terrain. So in the Black Sea area, part of the Palestine, Galilee, Hebrew, and Galilee, northern region of ancient Palestine, we have the hyacinth. Hyacinth itself comes in an array of 40 different colors. Cultivating culture, 18th century. Over the past 200,000 cultivators were grown in the Netherlands. Its chief commercial producer, hyacinths are often associated with spring and rebirth. We talked about symbolization. What hyacinths symbolize? Symbolism, the hyacinth is a flower of the sun god Apollo and is a symbol of peace, commitment, and beauty, but also of power and pride. The hyacinth is often found in Christian churches as a symbol of happiness and love. Hyacinth flower meanings. Blue hyacinth, pink hyacinth meaning play. Purple hyacinth means sorrow. I am sorry. Please forgive me. Red hyacinth meaning play, like I talked about earlier with the pink. So they both pink and red have the same meaning. White hyacinth meaning I pray for you. Loveliness. Yellow hyacinth meaning jealousy. Daffodil. The first legend is one you might be familiar with. It begins with a young Greek boy named Narcissus, who was completely obsessed with himself and his beauty. The second legend comes from Chinese culture and is a little boy more positive. He is said that a poor but good man was given cups of gold every morning from this flower. There are two legends to note about the origins of the daffodil, each being very different. It seems this flower has different meanings for different cultures in the world. For the West, it's vanity, and for the East, it means fortune and prosperity in China. Daffodil blooms around Chinese New Year and are a symbol of good fortune, good luck, prosperity. If those flowers bloom exactly on New Year's, they mean good luck for the whole year ahead. There are more than 50 different species of daffodils, mostly ranging from yellow, white, orange, but some come in reds, pink, or even greens. The following three fortunate varieties of daisies are best guaranteed to flourish all spring long. Symbolize creativity and renewal, but it also symbolizes inspiration, memory, and forgiveness. In many cases, the daffodil can be used to represent a sense of awareness and inner reflection. Crocus. Crocus is a flower or a plant is related to the iris family, comprising of 90 species of perennial growing corns. Many are cultivated for their flower, appearing in autumn, winter, spring. The species saffron is obtained from the stigma of the Crocus sativus and autumn blooming species. Crocus are native to the woodland shrub and meadows from sea level to alpine tundra in North Africa and the Middle East, Central and Southern Europe. In particular, Course, Greece, on the islands of the Aegean and across Central Asia to and I want to pronounce it the correct way, and I apologize. Exim Providence in Western China. What do crocus symbolize? Crocus or crocus was a mortal youth who he was unhappy with his love affair with Samilax, which turned by the gods in a plant bearing his name, crocus. What do crocus symbolize? Crocus flowers have a rich symbolization of rebirth, innocence, joy, new beginnings, thanks to their early bloom flowers in spring. So we see two pictures of the Greek gods fighting amongst each other and putting them down. Crocus are one of the first flowers to bloom each spring. In cold climates, their cherry blossoms often open when there's still snow on the ground. Crocus flowers come in pastel colors: purple, yellow, lavender, cream, and white. 80 different flowering plants. The longest and the most important of the use of the crocus is for saffron. Some crocus species produce large stigma, but pollen-holding parts inside the flower, removing these stigmas, are carefully dried and produce a tasty and colorful spice. The name crocus traces back through many Middle East languages to the root word saffron and Sanskrit. The name dates back thousands of years, along with the history of the plant's cultivation as a spice. Purple, the meaning of crocus. Purple, the tradition color of royalty, is tied to gratefulness, dignity, and personal success. Pink, the color of innocence and youthfulness. This joyful color is less romantic than red, making it great for conveying love and admiration for friends and family members. White, the purest and most versatile flower color of them all. A bonnet of crocuses in this color can indicate a humble approach of wishes, condolences for someone in grief. This color is commonly associated with funerals in some cultures, but is also used for weddings due to its ties to purity and elegance in others. When I talked about the saffron crocus, I will give you two examples. And this is just of last year, and this is as of April of this year. Persia lands known as the Croatian province, that is to say, the cities of this province are best zones to harvest saffron crocus. In this region, the saffron harvest starts in the middle of autumn and lasts for 30 to 40 days. When I did this presentation last year, and I did the price per pound per ounce of saffron in San Francisco for the direct import of saffron for the spice, it was $1,162.24 per pound, or $72.95 per ounce as of October 1st of last year. Well, as of April 8th of this year, the price of saffron has skyrocketed to $5,000 a pound, and we cannot even come up with a price at an adequate price per ounce. But just to let you know, $5,000 a pound for these strains of saffron. So saffron is the most expensive spice in the world, and it's also one of the most unregulated plants in the world. Saffron is traded in the slave trade, and the workers are not getting fair value of their work. I'm Farmer TC, and I want to thank you for listening today. If anyone have any questions, I will be happy to answer as best I can. Well, again, I'm Farmer TC of Willow and Acres, Willow and MC 4-H Club. You can contact us at willowrunacres.com, willowrunacres@gmail.com, 734-717-4849. We are a local nonprofit organization. I want to thank Growing Hope for helping us with this presentation of our fall class for tulip, daffodil, crocus, and hyacinths. Growing Hope is located on 922 West Michigan Ave in Ypsilanti. Their phone number is 734-786-8401. And if you have any questions or comment or any discussion, you can contact Growing Hope at growinghope.net. Julius, any questions? Okay, well, we don't have any questions, and that's about it. I want to thank everyone today, and everyone have a great night. Thank you.